The war had been going on for 6 long years. Captain Andrew Cole stood on the bridge of his ship, the USS Defiance. His hands gripped the metal railing as he stared at the screens in front of him. Another colony was gone. 7 million people had lived on New Harmony just this morning. Now there was nothing left but dust and fire. The Crithians had done this. They always did this. For 300 years, they had been destroying worlds across the galaxy. Every species that tried to fight them lost. Every civilization that stood in their way was crushed. The Crithians did not want to rule other planets. They did not want resources or territory. They simply wanted everyone else dead. Cole felt tired. He had been fighting this war since it started, and nothing ever changed. The Allied forces would gather their ships. They would fight as hard as they could. Then the Crithians would push them back. Every battle ended the same way. Retreat. Always retreat. Lieutenant Lisa Martinez walked over to him. She was young, maybe 25 years old. Her dark hair was pulled back tight and her uniform was perfect. But Cole could see the stress in her eyes. Everyone on the bridge had lost someone. Friends, family, entire homeworlds. The war touched everything. "Sir, we have new orders from command," Martinez said. Her voice was steady, but Cole knew her well enough to hear the worry underneath. Cole turned to face her. "What do they want now?" "We need to go to Sigma-7. The Council is putting together a defensive fleet. They want us there in 2 days." Commander Derek Hayes laughed, but there was no humor in it. He was Cole's second in command, a man in his 40s with gray hair and a scar across his left cheek. "Another defensive operation? That is all we ever do anymore. Defend and retreat. Defend and retreat. We have been doing this for 6 years and we have not stopped them even once." Cole could not argue with that. Hayes was right. The Galactic Defense Coalition sounded impressive. 47 different alien species working together. Hundreds of warships. Thousands of brave soldiers. But none of it mattered. The Crithians just kept winning. Humanity had joined the war 3 years ago. Earth had sent its fleet to help. The human ships were new and fast. The weapons were powerful. But even that had not been enough. The Crithians were too strong, too organized, too ruthless. "Set course for Sigma-7, Cole ordered. Maximum speed. And someone get me the latest reports on where the Crithian fleet is moving." The crew moved to follow his orders. The Defiance was a good ship with a good crew. They had survived when many others had not, but Cole wondered how much longer their luck would hold. As the ship turned toward its destination, Cole looked back at the screen showing New Harmony. The planet was dark now, no lights, no signals, nothing. He thought about all the people who had been there. Children playing, families eating dinner, people working, laughing, living their lives. All gone in less than an hour. "This has to end," Cole said quietly. Hayes heard him. "How? We cannot beat them. No one can beat them." Cole did not have an answer. The Crithians had never lost a major battle. Their ships were covered with marks for every civilization they had destroyed. Their commanders were experienced and cruel. Their technology was the best in the galaxy. What could anyone do against that? The journey to Sigma-7 would take 2 days. Cole spent most of that time reading reports and studying tactical maps. He was looking for something, anything that might help. A weakness in the Crithian formations, a pattern in their attacks, some way to hurt them, but he found nothing. The Crithians were too good at what they did. They had been perfecting their war machine for 3 centuries. Every tactic had been tried against them. Nothing worked. On the second day, Martinez came to his quarters. She looked excited, which was unusual. "Sir, you need to see this. Something strange is happening at Sigma-7. Cole followed her back to the bridge. The main screen showed the Sigma-7 system. As expected, there were hundreds of Allied ships gathering there. Ships from dozens of different species, all preparing for another battle they would probably lose. "What am I looking at?" Cole asked. "Wait for it," Martinez said. "There, see that?" A new ship was arriving at Sigma-7. It dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system. Cole leaned forward to get a better look. The ship was huge, bigger than anything he had ever seen. It was nearly 2 kilometers long, covered in heavy armor and weapons. "What is that?" Hayes asked, moving to stand next to Cole. "Computer, identify that vessel," Cole ordered. The ship's computer took a moment to respond. Vessel identified. USS Thunderchild, Terran Defense Force. Classification, Dreadnought. "A dreadnought," Hayes said. "I did not know Earth was building dreadnoughts." Neither did I, Cole replied. He pulled up everything the computer had on the Thunderchild. There was not much information. The ship had been classified. Top secret. But the basic facts were impressive. 2 kilometers of armor and weapons. The most advanced human technology ever built. 15 years of development. Martinez was reading the same information. It says here that the Thunderchild was built specifically to fight the Crithians. Every system was designed with them in mind. 1 ship, Hayes said slowly. They sent 1 ship to face the entire Crithian fleet. That is either very brave or very stupid. Cole watched the Thunderchild move into position. It did not join the main fleet. Instead, it took a spot at the very front ahead of everyone else. Like it was daring the Crithians to attack it first. Maybe it is both, Cole said. Brave and stupid. But as he studied the massive warship on his screen, Cole felt something he had not felt in a long time. It was small and fragile, and he was almost afraid to acknowledge it. But it was there, growing in his chest. Hope. The Defiance arrived at Sigma 7 6 hours later. Cole guided his ship into formation with the other human vessels. There were about 30 Earth ships present. Not many compared to the hundreds of alien warships, but they were good ships with good crews. Admiral Kelvin Wright was commanding the human forces. He was a tough old man who had been fighting wars since before Cole was born. Wright sent a message to all the human captains. Listen up. The Crithians will be here in about 8 hours. They are bringing 600 ships. We have 300. The odds are not good, but we are going to fight anyway. We have one advantage this time. The Thunderchild is here. That ship is special. Trust me on that. When the shooting starts, support it however you can. Right out, the message ended. Cole looked at the Thunderchild again. It sat alone at the front of the formation, dark and massive and silent. He wondered what was going through the mind of its captain. The weight of all those hopes resting on one ship must be crushing. All crew, this is the captain, Cole announced over the ship-wide channel. We are going into battle soon. I know we have all fought before. I know we have all lost before. But today might be different. We have a new weapon on our side. The Thunderchild was built to kill Crithians. Let us see if it can do the job. Be ready, be sharp. And remember what we are fighting for. Cole out. The hours passed slowly. Cole tried to rest but could not sleep. He kept thinking about New Harmony, about all the other colonies that had fallen, about Earth itself, still safe but always threatened. Finally, the sensors detected incoming ships. 600 Crithian warships appeared at the edge of the system. They came out of faster-than-light travel in perfect formation. Their red hulls gleamed in the light of the system's star. Each ship was marked with the symbols of destroyed civilizations. Here they come, Martinez said quietly. Cole gripped his armrests. All stations battle-ready. This is it. The Crithian fleet began moving toward them, slow and steady, confident. They had done this countless times before. They knew they would win, but they had never faced the Thunderchild before. And that, Cole thought, might make all the difference. Captain Nathan Price sat in the command chair of the USS Thunderchild. He was 42 years old, younger than most ship captains. But he had trained for this moment for 3 years. He knew every system on this ship. Every weapon. Every piece of armor. Every backup system and emergency protocol. The Thunderchild was his ship. It had been built for him, and he had been chosen for it. Now he would find out if all that training and preparation had been worth it. Captain, the Crithian fleet is approaching, Lieutenant Commander Helen Carter said from the tactical station. She was a calm woman with red hair and sharp green eyes. Price trusted her completely. 600 enemy ships. They are moving into attack formation. Price nodded. How long until they are in weapons range? 30 minutes at current speed. Good. That gives us time. Price touched a button on his chair. Engineering, this is the captain. I need a status report. Commander Alex Turner answered from deep in the ship. He was the chief engineer. A man who loved machines more than people. All systems are running perfectly, Captain. Reactor is at full power. Weapons are charged. Shields are ready. We are good to go. Excellent. Stand by. Price closed the channel and looked around his bridge. The crew was ready. Every person at their station. Every system active and waiting. This was what they had trained for. The Thunderchild hung in space ahead of the Allied fleet. Price had positioned his ship there deliberately. The Crithians would see it first. They would target it first, and that was exactly what he wanted. Captain, "We are receiving a transmission from Admiral Wright," the communications officer announced. "Put him on screen." Admiral Wright appeared on the main display. He was an old man with gray hair and a face lined with worry, but his eyes were still sharp. "Captain Price, I hope you know what you are doing. The entire fleet is counting on your ship." "We know what we are doing, sir," Price replied. "The Thunderchild was built for exactly this situation. Trust us," Wright nodded slowly. "I do trust you. That is why you are here. Just remember, if things go wrong, pull back. We cannot afford to lose that ship on its first battle." "Understood, sir." The transmission ended. Price turned back to his crew. "All right, everyone, this is it. The Crithians have never lost a major battle. They think they are unstoppable. Today we are going to teach them something new." Carter checked her displays. "Captain, the Crithians are splitting their fleet. They are sending about 150 ships directly toward us. The rest are holding back. They are testing us," Price said. "They want to see what we can do." "Let them come. Helm, hold position. Do not move no matter what happens." "Yes, sir," the helmsman replied. The minutes passed. Price watched the Crithian ships getting closer. 150 warships. That would be enough to destroy any normal vessel. Even a battleship. But the Thunderchild was not a normal battleship. "Range 800,000 kilometers, Carter announced. 700,000. 600,000. "Hold," Price said calmly. 400,000 kilometers. "They are opening fire!" The Crithian ships launched everything they had. Energy beams, missiles, plasma bolts. Hundreds of weapons fired at once. The space between the fleets lit up like a star. All of that firepower was aimed at the Thunderchild. "Defensive systems, activate," Price ordered. The Thunderchild responded instantly. Point defense guns opened fire. Thousands of small weapons tracking incoming missiles. Each gun was controlled by a computer that could aim and fire faster than any human. The missiles began exploding in space, destroyed before they could reach the ship. The energy beams hit the shields. The Thunderchild shuddered slightly as massive amounts of power crashed against its defenses. But the shields held. They had been designed specifically to handle Crithian weapons. The energy was absorbed and redirected. A few shots made it through. They struck the armor plating on the ship's hull. The armor was 2 meters thick in places, made of special materials that could absorb and spread out the energy. Small sections glowed red hot, but the armor held. "Damage report," Price said. Carter smiled. "Shields at 96%. Hull integrity 100%. No damage to any major systems." Price allowed himself a small smile. "Good. Now let us show them what we can do. All weapons fire at will." The Thunderchild had been built as a weapons platform. Every surface was covered with guns. The main weapons were 24 heavy railguns. Each one could fire a slug of depleted uranium at incredible speed. The slugs were so fast and so heavy that they hit like nuclear bombs. The railguns fired. The first salvo hit 6 Crithian cruisers. The slugs punched through their shields like they were not even there. They tore through armor. They destroyed reactors. The 6 ships exploded in balls of fire and debris. The Crithians had never seen anything like it. 6 ships gone in seconds, but the Thunderchild was not done. Its missile batteries opened up. Hundreds of smart missiles launched into space. These were not normal missiles. Each one had its own computer brain. They could dodge enemy fire. They could work together. They could think. The missiles swarmed toward the Crithian ships. The enemy tried to shoot them down, but there were too many. The missiles weaved and dodged. They cooperated with each other. And then they hit. 30 more Crithian ships died. Explosions filled the space between the fleets. In just 2 minutes of fighting, the Thunderchild had destroyed over 40 enemy vessels. "Enemy fleet is breaking formation," Carter reported. They looked confused. Price understood why. The Crithians had been winning for 300 years. They had never faced anyone who could hurt them like this. They did not know what to do. "Keep firing," Price ordered. "Do not give them time to think." The Thunderchild continued its attack. The railguns fired again and again. The missiles kept launching. Energy weapons added to the destruction. Particle beams cut through Crithian shields. Laser batteries targeted engines and weapons. The massive human warship did not move. It just sat there in space, dealing death to everything in front of it. The Crithians kept shooting back, but nothing they did made a difference. The Thunderchild was too tough. Its shields were too strong. Its armor was too thick. Aboard the Crithian flagship, War Commander Skrull watched his fleet die. He could not believe what he was seeing. One ship, A single human ship was destroying his forces. "What is that thing?" he demanded. His tactical officer was sweating. "We do not know, Commander. It does not match any known design. Our weapons are not effective against it. All ships concentrate fire on that vessel," Skrull ordered. "I do not care what it costs." "Destroy it!" More Krithian ships moved forward. Now 200 vessels were attacking the Thunderchild. The amount of firepower was incredible, enough to destroy a moon. The Thunderchild shook as the attacks intensified. Price gripped his armrests and watched his displays. "Shields?" "Down to 70%, Carter said. "But holding steady. Engineering, I need more power to the shields," Price called. "Already on it," Turner replied. "Diverting power from non-essential systems now." The shield stabilized. Price nodded. "Keep firing. All weapons, continuous fire." The battle continued. The Thunderchild was taking damage now, but it was still fighting. For every hit the Krithians scored, the human ship destroyed 3 enemy vessels. It was simple math. The Krithians were losing, and then something amazing happened. The rest of the Allied fleet moved forward. Captain Andrew Cole and the USS Defiance led a group of cruisers against the Krithian right flank. Other captains saw the opportunity and attacked as well. The Krithians were so focused on the Thunderchild that they had forgotten about the other ships. Now they were being hit from multiple directions. Their perfect formation fell apart. Ships collided with each other. Orders were confused. The discipline that had made them unstoppable for 3 centuries was breaking down. "The enemy fleet is in disarray," Carter announced. "They are losing cohesion." Price saw his chance. "Open a channel to the Krithian flagship." "Channel open, sir." Price spoke calmly, knowing the Krithians could hear him. "This is Captain Nathan Price of the United Earthship Thunderchild. You've been winning for 300 years. You thought no one could stop you, but you were wrong. Today you learn what happens when you fight humanity. We do not give up. We do not surrender. And we do not lose." He closed the channel. Carter was smiling. "Nice speech, Captain. Let us hope it has the right effect," Price replied. "All weapons keep firing. Let us finish this." War Commander Skrull stared at his tactical display in disbelief. He had been fighting wars for 50 years. He had destroyed hundreds of worlds. He had never lost a battle, never. But he was losing now. The numbers did not lie. He had brought 600 ships to this battle. Now he had less than 400, and they were still dying. That human ship, the Thunderchild, sat at the center of the battlefield like a fortress. His forces had thrown everything at it. Nothing worked. The ship just would not die, and every minute it survived, more Krithian ships were destroyed. "War Commander, we must withdraw," his tactical officer said. The young officer looked terrified. "We cannot win this battle. Withdraw." The word tasted like poison. Krithians did not withdraw. They conquered. They destroyed. But as Skrull watched another 10 of his ships explode, he knew the officer was right. "All ships," Skrull said slowly, each word painful. "Break off attack. Prepare for faster-than-light jump. We are leaving." The Krithian fleet turned and ran. For the first time in 300 years, they were retreating. Ships jumped to faster-than-light travel as quickly as their engines could charge. Some did not make it. The Allied forces destroyed them before they could escape. In less than 5 minutes, the Krithian fleet was gone. They left behind nearly 300 destroyed ships. Debris floated in space where proud warships had been. It was the greatest defeat the Krithians had ever suffered. Aboard the USS Defiance, Captain Andrew Cole watched the last Krithian ship disappear. The bridge was silent. Everyone was staring at their screens, not quite believing what they had just seen. Then someone started cheering. Cole did not know who it was, but the sound spread quickly. Soon everyone on the bridge was shouting and laughing. The celebration spread to other ships. Hundreds of vessels, dozens of species, all rejoicing together. They had won. After 6 years of losing, after countless defeats, they had finally won. Cole felt tears on his face. He did not bother to wipe them away. He thought about all the people who had died in this war. His friends, his family, 7 million souls on New Harmony. Maybe now their deaths meant something. "Sir, Admiral Wright is hailing all ships," Lieutenant Martinez said. She was crying too, but she was smiling. Cole nodded. "Put him on." Admiral Wright appeared on the screen. The old man looked 10 years younger. "All ships, this is Admiral Wright. I want to thank each and every one of you. Today you made history. Today you proved that the Krithians can be beaten. Today you gave hope to every free being in this galaxy. The Admiral paused. But I want to especially recognize Captain Nathan Price and the crew of the USS Thunderchild. That ship and that crew just changed the course of this war. Captain Price, on behalf of everyone here, thank you. The screen split. Captain Price appeared next to the Admiral. He looked tired but satisfied. Thank you, sir. But we just did our job. The real credit goes to everyone who believed we could build something capable of stopping the Crethians. And to everyone who fought alongside us today. Cole studied Price carefully. The man did not look like a hero. He looked like a regular ship captain. But he had just accomplished what 300 years of warfare had failed to do. He had beaten the Crethians. How is your ship? Wright asked. We took some damage, Price admitted. Shields are down to 30%. We have some hull breaches in sections 9 and 12, but nothing critical. The reactor is stable. Weapons are still operational. We can keep fighting if needed. I do not think that will be necessary, Wright said with a smile. The Crethians will not be back for a while. Get your ship repaired, Captain. I have a feeling we will need you again soon. The transmission ended. Cole sat back in his chair. Commander Derek Hayes was grinning like a fool. We won. We actually won. One battle, Cole said carefully. This was just one battle. The Crethians still have hundreds of ships, maybe thousands. They will learn from this. They will come back stronger. But now we know they can be beaten, Martinez said. That changes everything, she was right. For 300 years, the Crethians had seemed invincible. Every species in the galaxy feared them. Many had already surrendered without fighting. But now everyone would know the truth. The Crethians could bleed. They could lose. They could be defeated. Over the next few hours, the Allied fleet began to organize itself. Damaged ships moved to the rear. Medical teams treated the wounded. Engineers started repairs. It was the normal work that came after any battle. But there was nothing normal about what had happened. Cole could see it in the faces of his crew. They stood taller. They smiled more. Hope was a powerful thing. 3 days later, Cole received orders to return to Earth. The Defiance needed repairs, and Command wanted to debrief everyone who had fought at Sigma 7. The journey home took a week. When the Defiance arrived at Earth orbit, Cole was surprised to see hundreds of ships gathered there. Military vessels, civilian transports, even small private ships. They were all there to welcome the returning fleet. Sir, we are receiving thousands of messages, Martinez said. Everyone wants to talk to us. News organizations, government officials, private citizens, everyone. Cole shook his head. Tell them we will give statements later. Right now, I just want to get this ship into dock and give the crew some rest. But rest would have to wait. As soon as the Defiance docked, Cole was summoned to Earth Command. He took a shuttle down to the surface, landing at military headquarters in North America. The building was full of activity. Officers rushed back and forth. Screens showed maps and tactical displays. Everyone seemed to be talking at once. Cole found his way to the main briefing room. Inside, he found Admiral Wright and several other high-ranking officers. Captain Price was there too, looking uncomfortable in his dress uniform. The room fell silent when Cole entered. Captain Cole, thank you for coming, Wright said. Please sit down. We have a lot to discuss. Cole took a seat. What is this about, sir? The future, Wright said simply. The Battle of Sigma 7 changed everything. News is spreading across the galaxy. Species that had given up are now willing to fight again. Worlds that were preparing to surrender are building defenses. The coalition is growing stronger every day. That is good news, Cole said. It is. But it also means the Crethians will come back harder than before. They cannot afford to look weak. They will gather everything they have and launch a massive attack. Price leaned forward. Which is why we need more ships like the Thunderchild. Earth's shipyards are already building 3 more dreadnoughts. But they will not be ready for at least a year. A year might be too long, another officer said. Our intelligence suggests the Crethians are preparing a major offensive. They could attack within 6 months. Wright nodded. That is why we are accelerating production. We are also sharing some of our technology with the coalition. Not the dreadnought designs, but defensive systems and weapons. We need every ship in the fleet to be as effective as possible. What about the Thunderchild? Cole asked. How long until it is ready for combat again? Price smiled slightly. 2 weeks. Maybe 3. The damage was not as bad as it looked. We just need to replace some armor plating and recharge the shields. The ship is tough. Good, we will need it. Wright stood up. Gentlemen, we are at a turning point. For 300 years, the Crithians have been winning this war. Now we have a chance to push back, but we need to move fast. We need to stay ahead of them. Can we do that? Price and Cole both nodded. Yes, sir, they said together. Then let us get to work. Wright looked at both captains. You two and your crews are heroes now. The whole galaxy knows your names. Use that, inspire people.
Give them hope.
Because hope is the most powerful weapon we have. Later that day, Cole found himself walking through the streets of the city near the military base. People recognized him. They came up to shake his hand and thank him. Some were crying. Others were smiling. All of them had hope in their eyes. One woman approached him. She was old, maybe 70 years old. My grandson died at New Harmony, she said. He was only 20. I thought his death was meaningless. But now I know it was not. You and those other brave people, you are fighting for him. You are making sure his death meant something. Cole did not know what to say. He just nodded and squeezed her hand gently. As he walked away, Cole thought about Admiral Wright's words. Hope was powerful, but it was also fragile. They had won one battle. Now they needed to win the war. And that, Cole knew, would be much harder. 6 months passed after the Battle of Sigma 7. Those 6 months changed the galaxy. Word of the Crithian defeat spread like wildfire. Species that had been ready to surrender found new courage. Planets that had accepted their doom began building weapons and training soldiers. The Galactic Defense Coalition grew stronger. New species joined. Ships were built. Armies were trained. But everyone knew the Crithians would return. The only question was when. Captain Nathan Price stood on the bridge of the Thunderchild. His ship had been repaired and upgraded. The armor was thicker now. The weapons were more powerful. The shields were stronger. Earth's engineers had learned from the first battle and made improvements, but Price was not alone anymore. 2 more dreadnoughts had been completed ahead of schedule. The USS Vengeance and the USS Relentless now floated in space near the Thunderchild. They were sister ships nearly identical in design. Together, the 3 dreadnoughts represented the most powerful force humanity had ever created. Captain, we are receiving a transmission from Admiral Wright, Lieutenant Commander Helen Carter announced. Put him on, Price said. Admiral Wright appeared on the screen. He looked older now. The stress of commanding the war effort was showing. Captain Price, I have orders for you and the other dreadnought captains. The Crithians are coming. Price felt his stomach tighten. Where? Sector 9, they are bringing everything they have. Our scouts report over 1,000 ships. Maybe more. They want revenge for Sigma 7, and they want to prove they are still the strongest force in the galaxy. 1,000 ships. Price tried to imagine that many Crithian warships in one place. It was a terrifying thought. What are our forces? We have gathered 500 coalition ships, plus your 3 dreadnoughts. It is not enough, but it is all we have. Price nodded slowly. When do we leave? Immediately. The Crithians will reach Sector 9 in 3 days. We need to be there first, Wright paused. Nathan, this is going to be the biggest battle of the war. Everything depends on it. If we lose, the Crithians will have a clear path to Earth and dozens of other core worlds. We understand, sir. The Thunderchild and her sisters will be ready. The transmission ended. Price turned to his crew. You heard the Admiral. Set course for Sector 9, maximum speed, and send a message to the Vengeance and the Relentless. We need to coordinate our tactics. The 3 dreadnoughts jumped to faster-than-light travel together. Price spent the 3-day journey meeting with the other captains. Captain Victoria Grant commanded the Vengeance. She was a tough woman in her 50s who had been fighting the Crithians for years. Captain Raymond Clark commanded the Relentless. He was younger, only 38, but he had proven himself in several battles. 3 against 1,000, Grant said during one of their meetings. Those are not good odds. The Thunderchild faced 150 at Sigma 7 and won, Clark pointed out. Maybe 3 dreadnoughts can handle 1,000. Price shook his head. We will not be alone. We have 500 coalition ships with us, and the Crithians will be more cautious this time. They know what we can do, so what is the plan? Grant asked. Price pulled up a tactical display. We form a triangle. The 3 dreadnoughts at the front, spread out to cover more space. The coalition fleet behind us ready to exploit any openings we create. We hit them hard and fast. We do not give them time to organize. Clark studied the plan. It could work, but we will take heavy damage. All 3 of us. That is what we were built for, Price said. We can take the punishment. We just need to make sure we dish out more than we receive. The dreadnoughts arrived at Sector 9 2 hours before the Crithians. The Coalition fleet was already there, waiting nervously. Price could see the USS Defiance among the human ships. Captain Andrew Cole was out there somewhere, preparing for another battle. Price positioned the 3 dreadnoughts in a triangle formation, just as he had planned. The Thunderchild took the center position. The Vengeance moved to the left. The Relentless took the right. Behind them, the Coalition fleet spread out in a wide arc. All systems check, Carter reported. We are ready, Price nodded. Good, now we wait. They did not have to wait long. The Crithian fleet arrived exactly on schedule. 1,000 Crimson warships appeared at the edge of the system. They came in waves, hundreds of ships at a time. It was the largest force the Crithians had ever assembled. Sensor readings confirm 1,023 enemy vessels, Carter said. They are forming up into attack groups. Price watched the enemy fleet organize itself. The Crithians were being careful. They had learned from Sigma 7. Their formation was tighter now, more disciplined. They would not make the same mistakes. Open a channel to all Allied ships, Price ordered. Channel open, sir. Price spoke clearly, knowing hundreds of captains were listening. This is Captain Nathan Price. The Crithians have brought everything they have. They think their numbers will overwhelm us. They think we will break and run, but they are wrong. We have something they do not have. We have courage, we have determination, and we have each other. Today we stand together. Today we fight together. And today we will win together. All ships prepare for battle. The channel closed. Price could see the Crithian fleet starting to move. They were coming straight toward the Allied forces. No tricks, no clever tactics, just overwhelming force. All weapons charge and prepare to fire, Price ordered. Engineering, I want maximum power to the shields. This is going to be rough. Commander Alex Turner's voice came over the intercom. Reactor at maximum output. Shields charged. All systems ready. The Crithian fleet kept coming. They were in weapons range now. Price waited. He wanted them closer. He wanted to make every shot count. Range 400,000 kilometers, Carter announced. Hold, Price said. 300,000 kilometers. They are opening fire. The Crithian fleet unleashed a storm of firepower. Thousands of weapons fired at once. Energy beams, missiles, plasma bolts. The space between the fleets turned into a wall of deadly light. All ships, return fire. Price shouted. Give them everything we have! The 3 dreadnoughts opened fire together. 72 heavy railguns firing as one. Thousands of missiles launching. Energy weapons blazing. The combined firepower of the 3 ships was incredible. The Crithian front line simply disintegrated. Dozens of ships died in the first few seconds. But there were so many more behind them. The enemy fleet kept coming, stepping over the wreckage of their own ships. The Thunderchild shook as enemy fire hit its shields. Price gripped his armrests and watched his displays. The shields were holding, but they were taking tremendous punishment. Shields at 80%, Carter reported. No hull damage yet. Keep firing, Price ordered. Do not let up for even a second. The battle became a nightmare of fire and destruction. Ships died on both sides. The Crithians lost dozens of vessels every minute, but they kept coming. The Allied forces fought desperately, but they were outnumbered 2-1. Price watched the tactical display. The Vengeance and the Relentless were taking heavy damage. Both ships were still fighting, but they would not last much longer. The Thunderchild was in better shape, but not by much. Captain Grant is hailing us, Carter said. Price accepted the call. Grant's face appeared on his screen. She was bleeding from a cut on her forehead. Nathan, I do not know how much longer we can hold. The Vengeance has lost shields on 3 sides. We are taking direct hits to the hull. Hold on, Victoria. We are pushing them back. Look at the tactical display. They have lost over 200 ships. They cannot sustain this. Grant looked at her own displays and nodded. You are right, but we have to survive long enough to see them break. Vengeance out. Price turned back to his crew. She is right. We need to end this fast. Carter, target their command ships. The big ones at the back of their formation. Hit them with everything we have. Yes, sir. Targeting now. The Thunderchild's weapons shifted focus. The railguns locked onto the massive Crithian dreadnoughts at the rear of the enemy fleet. The missiles programmed new targets, and then they fired. The effect was immediate. 3 Crithian command ships exploded. The enemy fleet's coordination began to break down. Orders stopped coming. Ships stopped working together. The perfect Crithian discipline started to crack. "That is it," Price said. "They are breaking. All ships, press the attack! Do not let them recover." The Allied fleet surged forward. The 3 dreadnoughts led the charge, their weapons blazing. Behind them, 500 coalition ships poured fire into the confused Crithian formation. And then, for the second time in history, the Crithians broke. Their fleet scattered. Ships fled in every direction. Some jumped to faster-than-light travel. Others just tried to get away from the killing zone. The Allied forces chased them down. It was not mercy. It was not cruelty. It was simply war. When the battle finally ended, over 600 Crithian ships had been destroyed. The rest had escaped, but they were no longer a unified fleet. They were broken remnants running for their lives. Price sat in his chair, exhausted. Around him, his crew was celebrating. They had won again. Against impossible odds, they had won. "Captain, damage report," Price said quietly. Carter consulted her displays. "Shields are down to 15%. We have hull breaches on 8 decks. Reactor is stable but running hot. We lost 2 of our railguns. Casualties." 1 year after the Battle of Sector 9, the galaxy was a very different place. The Crithian Dominion, which had been expanding for 3 centuries, was now in retreat. They still controlled many worlds, but they no longer seemed unstoppable. The fear that had gripped the galaxy for so long was fading. Captain Andrew Cole walked through the halls of Earth's military headquarters. He had been promoted to commander after Sector 9. His ship, the USS Defiance, was being upgraded with new weapons and better shields. But Cole was not here about his ship. He was here for a meeting about the future of the war. The conference room was filled with officers and politicians. Admiral Wright was there, looking healthier than Cole had seen him in years. Captain Nathan Price sat near the front, his uniform decorated with medals. Several alien representatives were present as well, including High Commander Zelthar of the Aurelian Defense Corps. Cole found a seat near the back just as the meeting started. Senator Claire Morrison, who led Earth's Defense Committee, stood to address the group. "Thank you all for coming," she said. "We are here to discuss the current state of the war and our plans moving forward. Admiral Wright, would you please give us an update?" Wright stood and activated a large display. It showed a map of the galaxy with different colors marking controlled territories. "As you can see, the situation has improved dramatically. The red areas are Crithian-controlled space. You will notice it has shrunk considerably over the past year." He was right. The red zones that had once covered half the map were now much smaller. The Crithians have abandoned dozens of occupied worlds. They are consolidating their forces around their core systems. Our intelligence suggests they are preparing for a defensive war rather than an offensive one. "That is excellent news," another senator said. "Does this mean we are winning?" "We are pushing them back," Wright said carefully. "But winning is not the same as ending the war. The Crithians still have hundreds of ships and thousands of soldiers. They still control dozens of worlds. This will not be over quickly." High Commander Zelthar spoke up. "Admiral Wright is correct. The Crithians are wounded, but they are not defeated. They are adapting to our tactics. Their newer ships have better armor and stronger shields. They are learning from their losses." "Which is why we need to keep innovating," Price said. Everyone turned to look at him. "The dreadnoughts gave us an advantage, but that advantage is shrinking. We need new weapons, new tactics, new ideas. We cannot let the Crithians catch up to us." Senator Morrison nodded. "Captain Price, I understand Earth is building more dreadnoughts. How many will we have?" 6 more are under construction," Price replied. "The first 3 should be ready within 6 months. But dreadnoughts are not enough. We need to upgrade the entire fleet. Every ship needs better defenses and stronger weapons. And we need to train more crews." "What about our coalition partners?" another officer asked. "Are they keeping up?" Wright pulled up more data. "Yes, we have been sharing our technology with the coalition. Not everything, but enough to make their ships more effective. The Aurelians have built 12 new battleships using our shield designs. The Philesians have upgraded their entire fleet with better weapons. The coalition is stronger now than it has ever been." Cole listened to all of this with mixed feelings. The war was going better. People were more hopeful. But he had been fighting for 7 years now. He was tired. And he knew that even if they won, the cost would be terrible. After the meeting ended, Cole found himself walking with Price. The captain of the Thunderchild looked tired too.
"How are you holding up?"
Cole asked. Price shrugged. "Same as everyone else. taking it one day at a time. The Thunderchild has been in 3 more major battles since Sector 9. We keep winning, but it gets harder each time. Do you think we can actually beat them? Cole asked. Really beat them, I mean. End the war. Price was quiet for a moment. Yes, I think we can. But it is going to take years. Maybe decades. The Crithians have been building their empire for 300 years. Tearing it down will not be quick or easy. They walked in silence for a while. Then Price said, "But you know what gives me hope?" Before Sigma 7, everyone thought the Crithians were invincible. Now everyone knows they can be beaten. That changes everything. Fear was their greatest weapon, and we took it away from them. Cole nodded. Price was right. The psychological impact of those first victories had been enormous. Species that had been hiding were now fighting. Worlds that had accepted defeat were now resisting. The entire galaxy had changed. 3 months later, Cole was back on the bridge of the Defiance. The ship had been upgraded just like Price had suggested. New shields, new weapons, better armor. It felt like a different vessel. "Commander, we are receiving orders from Admiral Wright," Lieutenant Lisa Martinez said. She had been promoted to Lieutenant Commander after Sector 9. "We are being sent to the Carvo system. The Crithians have a major base there. The Coalition is mounting an offensive to take it." Cole studied the orders. The Carvo system was deep in Crithian space. Taking it would be a major victory. "How many ships are we sending?" "Over 700, including all 6 human dreadnoughts." Cole raised his eyebrows. All 6 dreadnoughts in one place. That was unprecedented. "This is going to be big." Set course for the rally point. Best speed. The Defiance joined the massive fleet assembling for the attack. Cole had never seen so many ships in one place. 700 vessels from dozens of species all working together. It was an impressive sight. The 6 dreadnoughts formed the core of the fleet. The Thunderchild led them with the Vengeance and Relentless at its flanks. 3 newer dreadnoughts, the USS Fury, the USS Justice, and the USS Freedom, took up positions behind them. Together they looked unstoppable. Admiral Wright commanded the operation from his flagship. The day before the attack, he held a briefing for all the senior officers. Cole attended via video link from the Defiance. "The Carvo system is one of the Crithians' most important bases," Wright explained. "They use it to coordinate their operations in this entire sector. Taking it will cripple their ability to operate in this region, but it will not be easy. Intelligence estimates they have at least 400 ships defending the system, plus orbital defenses and ground installations. Our plan is simple. The dreadnoughts will lead the assault, breaking through their outer defenses. The rest of the fleet will follow, targeting their ships and installations. Once we have space superiority, we will land ground forces to secure the major bases." Captain Victoria Grant spoke up. "Admiral, 400 ships is a lot, even for 6 dreadnoughts." "I know," Wright said, "but we have 700 ships total. And more importantly, we have experience. We have beaten them before. We can do it again." The attack began the next morning. The fleet jumped into the Carvo system and immediately encountered resistance. The Crithians had been expecting them. Their defensive fleet was already in position, and their orbital weapons were online. The 6 dreadnoughts charged forward, their weapons blazing. The amount of firepower they unleashed was staggering. The Crithian front line simply melted away under the assault. But the defenders kept fighting, wave after wave of ships throwing themselves at the advancing fleet. Cole commanded the Defiance from the second wave. His job was to support the dreadnoughts and exploit any openings they created. It was dangerous work, but he had done it many times before. The battle raged for 6 hours. Ships died on both sides. The space around Carvos became filled with debris and wreckage. But slowly, steadily, the Coalition forces pushed forward. The dreadnoughts absorbed incredible amounts of damage but kept fighting. The Crithian defense began to crack. Finally, the enemy fleet broke. The surviving Crithian ships retreated to the far side of the system. The Coalition had won space superiority. Ground forces began landing on the major bases. Cole watched from his bridge as the last Crithian stronghold surrendered. It had taken 3 days of fighting, but the Carvo system was now under Coalition control. It was a major victory, the biggest since Sector 9. That night, Cole received a message from his family on Earth, his sister and her children. They were safe and happy. They told him how proud they were, how grateful they were, how much hope they had for the future. Cole watched the message 3 times. This was why he fought. Not for glory or revenge, but for them. For everyone back home who deserved to live without fear. The war was not over. It would go on for years more. There would be more battles, more losses, more pain. But the tide had turned. The Crithians were retreating. The galaxy was fighting back. And humanity was leading the way. Cole looked out at the stars and allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. They were winning. Slowly, carefully, one battle at a time. They were winning. In the depths of Crithian space, the leaders of the Dominion gathered for an emergency council. For the first time in their history, they were discussing the possibility of peace, not because they wanted it, but because they might have no choice. The Terrans and their allies had proven they could not be defeated. The Crithian war machine, which had seemed unstoppable for 3 centuries, was failing. Ships were being lost faster than they could be replaced. Worlds were being liberated. Resources were running low. High Commander Craxus addressed the council. We face a choice. We can continue this war until... The peace talks began 6 months after the Crithian offer arrived. They were held on a neutral space station in a system controlled by neither side. Captain Nathan Price was there as a military advisor. Commander Andrew Cole attended as well, representing the combat officers who had fought on the front lines. The Crithian delegation arrived in a single ship. It was a small vessel, unarmed, painted white instead of the usual crimson red. The symbolism was clear. They were coming in peace. High Commander Craxus led the Crithian delegation. He was old by their standards, his scales faded and scarred from decades of warfare. When he entered the conference room, he looked at the human and alien representatives with something that might have been respect. "Thank you for agreeing to meet with us," Craxus said through a translator. His voice was rough but clear. "I know my people have caused great suffering. I know there is much anger toward us, but I hope we can find a way forward that does not lead to more death." Senator Claire Morrison spoke for the human delegation. "High Commander, your people have been waging war for 300 years. Countless civilizations have been destroyed. Trillions have died. Why should we believe you want peace now?" Craxus met her gaze steadily. "Because we have learned that we are not invincible. Your species and your allies have proven that. We can continue fighting until one side is completely destroyed, or we can find another way. I prefer the second option." The talks were difficult. The Crithians wanted to keep some of their conquered territories. The coalition wanted them to withdraw completely. The Crithians wanted guarantees of security. The coalition wanted reparations for the damage they had caused. Every issue was complicated. Every discussion was tense. Price and Cole attended many of the sessions but did not speak much. They were there to advise, not to negotiate. But they listened carefully to everything being said. One evening, after a particularly difficult day of talks, Price found himself alone with Craxus. The Crithian commander was standing by a viewport looking out at the stars. "Captain Price," Craxus said without turning around. "The one who commands the Thunderchild." "That is correct," Price said carefully. "You are the one who defeated War Commander Skrull at Sigma 7, and again at Sector 9. You are the reason we are here, having these talks." Price was not sure how to respond to that. "I was just doing my duty." Craxus turned to face him. "For 300 years my people believed we were superior. We thought no one could stand against us. You proved us wrong. Do you know what that means to us?" "I imagine it was humbling," Price said. "It was devastating," Craxus corrected. "Our entire culture was built on the idea of dominance. When that idea was shattered, everything else fell apart. Many of our people wanted to keep fighting, to prove that Sigma 7 was just luck. But after Sector 9, after Carvos, there was no denying it. You are better warriors than we are." Price shook his head. "We are not better warriors. We just had better technology and more determination." "Perhaps," Craxus said. "Or perhaps your species has something my people lost long ago. You fight for each other, for your families and friends, for your homes. We fight because it is what we have always done. There is a difference." The two of them stood in silence for a moment. Then Craxus said, "I want these talks to succeed, Captain. Not because I fear your weapons, though I do, but because I am tired of war. My people are tired of war. We have been fighting for so long that we have forgotten what peace looks like." Price studied the old commander. He saw weariness in his eyes. Real weariness. "I hope the talks succeed too. But you understand that there will be conditions. The coalition cannot simply forgive 300 years of genocide." "I understand," Craxus said. and I will do what I can to make my people accept those conditions. But you must understand something as well. If these talks fail, there are many in the Dominion who will want to fight to the last ship. They would rather die than admit defeat. Then let us make sure the talks do not fail, Price said. The negotiations continued for 3 months. Slowly, painfully, agreements were reached. The Crithians would withdraw from all occupied territories. They would pay reparations to the species they had harmed. They would allow coalition observers to monitor their military activities. In return, the coalition would not invade Crithian core space, and they would provide humanitarian aid to Crithian civilians affected by the war. It was not perfect. Many people on both sides were unhappy with the compromises, but it was better than continuing the war. The peace treaty was signed on a bright morning aboard the space station. Representatives from 47 coalition species in the Crithian Dominion put their names to the document. When it was done, people cheered. Some cried. After 300 years, the war was over. Price and Cole stood together watching the ceremony. "Do you think it will last?" Cole asked. "I do not know," Price admitted. "Peace is harder to maintain than war. But we have to try. What else can we do?" Cole nodded. He thought about all the battles he had fought, all the friends he had lost, all the people who had died so that this day could come. "I hope they did not die for nothing." "They did not," Price said firmly. "They died fighting for something important. And because of them, billions of people will live in peace. That means something." 1 year later, the galaxy had changed again. The Crithians had kept their word. They had withdrawn from occupied worlds and begun paying reparations. Coalition observers reported that they were dismantling their war machine and focusing on rebuilding their own damaged society. Humanity had changed too. Earth was no longer a minor player on the galactic stage. Humans were now leaders in the coalition. Human technology and human courage had saved countless lives. Other species looked to humanity for guidance and support. Captain Nathan Price, now promoted to Admiral, stood on the bridge of the Thunderchild. The ship had been repaired and upgraded many times over the years. It was no longer the newest dreadnought in the fleet. Earth had built 20 more, but it was still the most famous. The ship that had changed everything. "Admiral, we are receiving a transmission from Earth Command," Lieutenant Commander Helen Carter said. She had been with Price since the beginning, and she was now his executive officer. "Put it through," Price said. Admiral Wright appeared on the screen. He was retired now, but he still advised the military on important matters. "Nathan, I have news. The Coalition Council has decided to establish a new organization, a galactic defense force that will work to prevent any future wars like the one we just ended. They want you to lead it." Price was surprised. "Me? Why me?" "Because you proved that peace is possible even against the worst enemies," Wright said. "Because dozens of species trust you. Because you are the right person for the job. Will you accept?" Price thought about it. Leading a galactic defense force would be a huge responsibility, but it would also be a chance to make sure the peace lasted, to prevent future wars. "To build something good from all the suffering, I accept," Price said. Wright smiled. "I thought you would." "Congratulations, Admiral. You have earned this." Commander Andrew Cole, now Captain Cole, received his own new assignment. He was given command of a task force responsible for helping liberated worlds rebuild. It was not as glamorous as commanding a warship, but it was important work. Cole threw himself into it with the same dedication he had shown during the war. Years passed. The galaxy slowly healed. Worlds that had been destroyed were rebuilt. Species that had been enemies learned to cooperate. The memory of the war faded, though it was never forgotten. The Thunderchild eventually retired from active service. It was preserved as a museum ship, a reminder of how courage and determination had saved the galaxy. Millions of people from dozens of species visited it every year. They walked its corridors and stood on its bridge. They learned about the crew who had fought there. They remembered. Admiral Nathan Price lived to see the 50th anniversary of the Battle of Sigma 7. By then, he was an old man, respected across the entire galaxy. On the anniversary, he gave a speech to the Coalition Council. 50 years ago, the galaxy was at war, he said. The Crithian Dominion seemed unstoppable. Fear controlled everything. But a group of brave people decided to fight back. They refused to give up. They refused to surrender. And they proved that even the most terrible enemy can be defeated. He paused, looking around at the assembled representatives. Today we live in peace. The war is over. The fear is gone. But we must never forget the lessons we learned. We must never forget the price that was paid, and we must never allow such a war to happen again. The Thunder Child and ships like it were built to fight, but they were also symbols of hope. They showed us that even in our darkest moments we can find the strength to resist, that even when all seems lost, victory is still possible. That is the real lesson of the war. Not that violence can solve problems, but that courage and unity can overcome any challenge. The council gave him a standing ovation. Representatives from every species rose to their feet and applauded. Even the Crethean representative, a young commander born after the war ended, stood and clapped. Later that day, Price visited the Thunderchild Museum. He walked through the corridors he had once commanded. He stood on the bridge where he had made the decisions that changed history. He touched the command chair where he had